You're hosting next week's.
Put up with your crap,
You get to
Johnston.
you get to decide what we're talking about next week.
Oh my goodness.
So get ready for that. Hello, everybody. Didn't see you there. Welcome to the Aftershow. And thank you very much for supporting the show at patreon.com/P1podcast. We really do appreciate it so much. And we're going to do an after show on the topic of our favorite E3 reveals, because it is, at this time as we're recording it, it's June 9th as we're recording this, right around Summer Games Fest. That happened already. The Xbox Direct thing happened. There's going to be an Ubisoft showcase tomorrow. For all intents and purposes, it's E3 time again. So, yeah, let's talk about our favorite E3 reveals. I did not go to the first E3.
Me neither. Or the second one.
I went to the second one.
Or the third one.
I went to the third one too.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. And the fourth and the fifth.
Did I not go to the first one?
First
I can't
one,
remember.
Was that in 95?
95.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have gone to that then.
I did not go to that. I was not working at a video game magazine at that time. I was finishing high school
Yeah.
at that time. So I didn't go. It was in May, and I read on the internet that the Saturn had been announced and released.
Yeah.
That day. That was a fun E3 reveal. But I wasn't there for that. So I don't know if this really counts as one of my favorite E3 reveals since I wasn't there.
Well, I mean, I guess, I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's one way to... it was still pretty cool.
It was pretty cool.
And
that's
reveal.
certainly the last time that's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
That ain't happening again. But I remember, because I still talked with the folks who worked at EGM, because I had worked there in 1994, and I had, of course, heard the rumor on the internet, and then I was working at Babbage's at the time and called my manager, and they said yes, that we're getting Saturn units in today. And I said, please hold one for me, please, to purchase. And they did. So that was.
And they said, I don't think you need to worry about that.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't remember how many we got. I don't think it was very many, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but that that first E3, that's I wasn't there, but that's my memory of that, just the Saturn, even though PlayStation was obviously announced at the same E3.
Well, I mean, yeah, and the second half of that story is that they came up and said that the price was $100 cheaper than the Saturn.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So, I mean, that was a hell of a way to start E3, like the actual first ever E3.
The first ever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. What about you, Phil?
What about me?
E3 favorite E3 reveals. What do you got? I have a list. But
Yeah, me too. Really?
I'll just switch to you, Phil.
Okay. I mean, when you say to me favorite E3 reveal,
yeah,
my mind immediately goes to, and this is so basic. And you know what it is, right?
I know what it is.
Tell me what it is.
Metal Gear.
Nope.
No, really?
That's okay. That's
Metal
on
Gear
my list.
Solid 2.
Metal Gear Solid 2 specifically.
Yes.
Okay.
It is the Metal Gear Solid 2,
I
which
knew
I'm
it was
assuming
gonna
is
be,
what you were.
It's going to be, Metal Gear.
You were referring to.
Yes.
I mean, Metal Gear trailers were on a whole other level.
Yeah.
Yes.
From anything else you saw at E3, especially the first one and the second one especially were just like crazy.
Well, and I don't know if people remember this. Certainly, the younger listeners amongst our listener base may not know this, but at E3, sort of before the YouTube generation, right, where you could just watch a trailer over and over again, you would have the Konami booth, which would be running the trailer on a loop, probably with some other things as well. Oh
yeah. It was mixed in,
but people wanted to see that trailer again and again and again. So what they would do is just sit in the aisle.
Yeah, they camped out in that.
Camped out at the booth to watch it again, which is, it seems silly because now we can watch any trailers we want on YouTube. But
yeah, they had the front of their booth was a large kind of open area.
Yeah.
And it was I forget which hall they were in.
Yeah, but it wasn't made to be an open area where people could. I mean, there were people
not initially
clogging the walkways.
Not initially. No.
Yeah.
Eventually, I think they did make a larger space where people could sit.
Well, this is what I'm describing here is that it was a big open area, but it was right by, like, when you walked into the hall, the Konami booth was right there, and there was the big aisle, and then this kind of front part of the booth, which was mostly empty, and then you'd go around to the sides, or I can't remember if there was like a little interior section where they had the screens set up where you could play things, but and they had a very large monitor, or was it a bank of monitors? I don't remember, but at a very large screen, showing the trailer loop, and
it was like a projection of.
Yeah,
I don't think it was like a big panel.
Oh, was it a projector?
I think so.
I can't remember.
I don't remember that vividly. Yeah,
I don't remember.
20 whatever years.
I just remember needing to get to meetings and having to get through that area every now and then.
Exactly.
Because
and it was a hassle.
People.
People. Yeah, there would be crowds of just dozens upon dozens of people.
Not even in line to play anything. They were sitting there to watch a trailer.
Just waiting to watch. And if they showed up and the trailer was over, they would just plop their butts down on the ground.
Wait for the next one.
Right in the middle of where people are trying to walk.
Yeah.
And sit there for 10, 20 minutes waiting for the trailer to loop back around. But it was really worth it because it was an amazing trailer. And it got everyone super hyped.
It really did.
And I mean, I'm sure you can go on YouTube and probably watch that original trailer.
I'm sure.
Now. But
well, they released it on DVD.
Yeah, the document of Metal Gear Solid, wasn't it?
Document of Metal Gear Solid.
I still got that over there.
And then didn't OPM have it on their disc? But they're still doing discs.
Oh, that would make sense.
They were definitely still doing discs at that time.
Yeah.
So then you could watch it whenever you wanted. This was before YouTube, so yeah. Couldn't do it that way.
But yeah, I mean, that, as far as E3 reveal trailers, that is absolutely the one that stands out, just because it was such an event and because it drew these huge crowds and, quite frankly, disrupted the show because people had to fight their way through a crowd of people wanting to watch this trailer.
Yeah.
I mean, what else comes close to that kind of grandiose appeal?
I don't know that anything does, but Greg, you want to try to match that?
No. I don't have anything that matches that because that was it. I was just sort of going through E3's year by year because I didn't remember when a lot of this stuff had happened, and that was right at the top of my list. Was again, I think the reveal was actually during one of probably Sony's show, Sony's press conference. Where they first showed the trailer, but then you could of course see the trailer, and again, it was before YouTube, so and you would. I don't know that we had a lot of places where you were streaming video if IGN and stuff was doing that yet, but you
to
could just see it on the show floor. I do remember, as far as one of the first ones that I remember a big reveal, although it was something that we all pretty much knew was going to happen, was the Dreamcast launch and finding out that they were going to be including a 56K modem.
Yeah, that
sounds silly now, but it was a really big deal back then. Because the Dreamcast, of course, launched in Japan with a modem, but it was a 28K, I think.
No, it was
14.4. Anyway, whatever it was,
28.8.
Yeah, so 28K. That's what I just said. But anyway, there had been a rumor leading up to E3 that they were going to replace that in the US with a 56K. Modem.
Which
I remember the press conference because it was back when Sega was still doing press conferences before the show too. when they were still in hardware. And it was I don't know. I don't think it was Bernie Stoller it was Peter Moore, I think, who was in charge at that point, wasn't he? Anyway, the point being,
I think so.
Standing up on stage, and they had it on a screen behind him. It was supposed to look like a weather map,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a storm coming across the Pacific, which was, of course, a swirling Dreamcast logo. Because it kind of fit. And anyway, that's where he announced officially that there was going to be a 56K modem in the box. And I remember getting a pop from the crowd because, again, it was actually important back then, because Sega was the first console manufacturer who was pushing online play.
Yeah.
With their console, and them including a modem at all was a big deal. But the fact that they were going to include one that would make the online stuff play that much better, obviously, was huge. So outside of the Metal Gear Solid 2 trailer, which was right at the top of my list, that was the thing I remember especially being present for.
Yeah.
Because I remember getting really excited about that when it happened. I think I was there with you. I think I was sitting right next to you when we were seeing that, but I could be wrong about that. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Very likely. Very likely. All right. The next one on my list is Twilight Princess reveal.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, at E3. I happened to be there. I was working at New Type USA at the time. So I was not really in the video game media at that time. But I was not near the front in this one.
Wait a minute, though. Twilight Princess was Wii. They had
Wii and GameCube.
They had revealed it before that, because I remember being there, and
they did, yeah.
Yeah.
But I wasn't working at EGM.
Okay.
At that point, I was working at New Type, and it might have been 2004 when they showed it. Is that right?
Was that when they'd revealed it that it was going to be a Wii game? No. Okay. Because they were talking about it forever when it was just a GameCube game.
A GameCube game, yes. Yeah. This is not when it was a Wii game. But then also they put that trailer. Didn't they put that trailer on a DS card?
On a DS cartridge, yep. That everyone got who was at that show, who was at that press conference.
Was it really?
Yeah. It was, Phil's reaching for his right now.
I don't recall that.
Yep. I had mine up until a few years ago, and I finally sold it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, actually,
there it is.
Nice. Yeah. Very nice.
There it is.
Getting to see that reveal was amazing, because it felt different than other Zelda game reveals. Because we had Wind Waker, and Wind Waker had been a controversial title with the graphic style that it used, and people wanted the grown-up Zelda game. So when they showed Twilight Princess, it got a huge reaction from the crowd, and I was in the back and could not believe the reaction, the size of the reaction. And part of that was that it wasn't just industry folks in the audience for that. They had let fans in for that press conference. So there was an energy in there that it probably wouldn't have been the same if it had just been industry folk.
The Nintendo conferences were always like that, though.
Yeah, they were for sure. Yeah. Phil, do you got any others?
Hold on a second here. I'm just looking up what this DS cart goes for these days.
Probably quite a lot.
Yeah. There we go. Zelda preview trailer complete. You look, I'm referring to pricecharting.com.
Yeah.
This is about $4,000 right here.
All right then.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's why I have it in a little acrylic case. Because it's just a little cardboard sleeve that I don't want getting too banged up.
For sure.
Another big trailer reveal that stuck with me over all these years that tangentially related to Metal Gear 2 is that because the Metal Gear 2 trailer was in 2000, I believe.
Could have been.
May have
Which I think that might have been my first E3.
Okay.
Yeah. But a couple of years later, the next big Hideo Kojima game was shown off with a elaborate trailer at E3, and this was the Zone of the Enders sequel.
Aha.
Zone of the Enders, the second runner,
Mm-hmm.
was shown off in a very similar way. And certainly Zone of the Enders is not as big of a franchise as Metal Gear.
Yeah.
But I loved the first game, and seeing that trailer, which, you know, it's very much in the same style as that Metal Gear trailer, was a very standout moment for me. Got me super hyped for the second game, which was, as much as I enjoyed the first game, part 2 was significantly better. And yeah, that was one of my favorites. And I will still occasionally go back and rewatch that first trailer just to remember how good that game was.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so it's 1998. E3
That's not true.
in Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
And I'm at the Nintendo press conference.
Yeah.
And they announce, finally, Pokemon for the US.
Oh my goodness.
Really? That was where interesting.
Yeah, and it took 2 years. I mean, the Japanese game had come out 2 years before. And, you know, by this time, we were on the Game Boy Pocket, and Pokemon was a monster franchise, literally, in Japan. You know, comics and trading cards and anime series and all that stuff by the time that it came to the US. And it was just like an unknown thing in the US. Was this going to be big? So yeah, really interesting to kind of see that first little taste of what would be a franchise that would last, you know, many years and many generations after that.
I understand it's still going to this day.
I understand that it's still going. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But a very very cool thing. I think that was the same E3 where they showed off Banjo-Kazooie for the first time, and that had been rumored as the name Dream. Do you remember Dream? Project Dream, which was Rare's. It was the project, but it eventually became Banjo-Kazooie, and I believe like GameFan had like run rumors about it being this big title that was going to be shown off at E3. And they showed off Banjo-Kazooie, and then at the Q&A, which they used to have Q&As after these E3 presentations. They stopped doing that after not long after. Yeah, probably pretty quick into the year 2000. They stopped doing that. But somebody asked, "Where's Dream?" during the Q&A, and it's like they had just shown Banjo-Kazooie, but you know, the execs at Nintendo were like, "We don't know what you're talking about. There's no there's no project called Dream." Yeah, you just saw all the games we had.
Nothing
Did
else.
this person ask it in very awkward Japanese?
No, they didn't ask it in awkward Japanese, but yeah. And then, I mean, to continue on the Nintendo tips, so many other press conferences are memorable, but there was the first one that Iwata showed up at, which was the GameCube reveal of the launch lineup. I don't know if you remember that
vaguely,
but they showed off Smash Brothers Melee at that one, and I just remember, I mean, this became the intro to the game anyway. It was the intro cinematic, but all of the characters like being little figurines and then coming to life. It was awesome because Smash Brothers on the N64 is just, you know, it's not that great. I mean, it's a cool fighting game
concept.
It's a proof of
At this
concept,
point,
right? And
yeah.
then you had this game that was like taking it to the next level, as they say. And you could see Mario's the buttons on his jeans or whatever, and his overalls.
Is it like the texture of the denim?
The texture of the
I
denim
remember that.
was different. And yeah, that was just a really cool E3 in general to see that GameCube lineup, but to see Smash Brothers become like something larger than it had been on the N64, not knowing, of course, what a powerhouse that would then transform into.
Right.
Even the GameCube game now is a powerhouse. Like people still run tournaments for that. So yeah, a great show. Very memorable. I think that is on YouTube, that conference.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
It's too bad they aren't all on YouTube.
Yeah.
Although I think
no
I'm
kidding.
hoping that No Clip will end up with a few more of those.
I'd love to see the ones from the
big box of
the mid or
videos.
late 90s though.
Yeah.
Like those are the ones that I really want to see again.
Yeah.
So
You were talking about E3 98, and that was actually the first year I went
mm,
to E3. And my big memory of that show was actually that was when they first really showed off Gran Turismo on the PS1. That was the show for that. So I remember just being, I remember being amazed by the whole show, to be honest. It was, it was like, it was a dream come true to get to go to E3.
yeah.
And, but the fact that it was, Gran Turismo, which is a game I was really high on at that point, being sort of the flagship game there in Sony's booth was pretty awesome. The other thing that I remember, and I don't remember what year this was, but this isn't a specific reveal, but of course the Dreamcast versus the PlayStation 2 was kind of a thing for a while. And of course, I remember Shenmue being a part of this. And do you remember Sega running it was footage of the heads of the characters?
Yeah, it was the facial demo.
The facial demo, yeah.
Oh yeah.
The facial demo always stuck with me. So for people who don't know what this was, where were the faces from for the PlayStation 2? That was from
I don't
some
know.
game, wasn't it?
Anyway, have no idea.
They were comparing, I think they were PlayStation 2. It was PlayStation 2 footage, but Sega was comparing the sort of the graphic fidelity of the faces in the first Shenmue to the graphic fidelity of, I think, something that had been revealed for the PS2, because I think it was already out by then, or it was coming out soon or something. But anyway,
Ridge
and I
Racer
just remember
5.
that being a thing. What's that?
Maybe it was Ridge Racer 5.
I don't think so. But
No.
either way, because that was kind of a thing with Sega and the Dreamcast. I know that when they first showed the Dreamcast behind closed doors, that was something that they were really kind of pushing, was the fidelity of the textures. Even when you got up really close to them, they were really high res looking, as opposed to how pixelated things normally got when you zoomed in on them in most game consoles, or how blurry they got if it was an N64.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just, the facial demo thing stuck with me because it was really impressive and it made the Dreamcast look great.
It did. I think that was right next to Jet Grind Radio or Jet Set Radio on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was great. I do want to mention Conker's Bad Fur Day.
That was also on my list because they've been showing it and talking about it for years. Is this really kid friendly, bright, happy, basically another rare Mario 64 clone.
Yeah.
And there was even the Game Boy game, right?
12
Tales.
Yeah.
12 Tales. And then all of a sudden to have it be what it became was so crazy.
And the other thing, I don't know if you remember this, is at Nintendo's booth, they had a bar set up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right.
Where you could order a beer, like you could drink beer out of a Conker pint glass, which I still have the pint glass.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah.
Oh,
and that's where I met very briefly Robin Beanland, who's a composer at Rare.
Oh, yeah.
Who, by the way, has done the music for Sea of Thieves.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, back in the early 2000s when Rare, Rare had composers that people knew by name, but not Robin Beanland at that time. He had just started. Really, so that was crazy to remember that. But
I loved Bad Fur Day.
Bad Fur Day is such a weird oddity of that time period, right? And it was at Nintendo's booth, but Rare was the one that was publishing it. Rare was
they were
their first self-published game.
Yeah,
it was a really interesting whole setup, right? Because it was so not Nintendo to have a game like that at all.
Exactly.
Even if it wasn't by them. But then the fact like, but just to be clear, Nintendo's not publishing this.
Right, because we had the video game violence hearings and the content. The content in video games was still under scrutiny at that time.
Well, I mean, and it was under renewed scrutiny around that time too because of Columbine.
Well, that's true too. Yeah. Well, what else we got here? You want to mention anything else before we wrap it up?
I remember the other thing real quick. I wasn't there for this, but Sony revealing the PlayStation 3 for the first time. Although I think it was only the shell. I doubt that the hardware was even close to being done. But the big thing I remember is I think it was the same year that the 360 was shown.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I think the PlayStation 3 kind of looked pretty much the same as it ended up looking. I remember the case being silver when they first showed it. But the thing that stuck with me was the whole 2 HDMI ports in the back. If you remember that, when they first showed that thing, it was going to have 2 HDMI ports in the back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but it was a big deal. They really called that out.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then just remembering, I think it was a year later that they showed the final hardware, and of course, a lot of the things that they had. Because I think the other thing was it was going to have a removable hard drive as well, and they really promised the moon when they first showed that mock-up of the PS3, and
they did.
Became so clear that so much of that was just to make sure that they stole Microsoft's thunder on the 360. Wasn't necessarily true.
Wasn't that the one that had the boomerang controller?
I think it was, yes.
Yeah. I'm glad they didn't ultimately go with that.
And then, I mean, the ultimate reveal the year later, I remember being not underwhelming, but the price. They revealed the price, I think, at that point, and the price was shocking.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just remember those 2 conferences. I did go to that conference where they actually showed the final hardware. I think that was the last E3 I ever went to.
Oh, really?
I think so.
I don't think I was at that one. I went to the one where they showed off the boomerang controller and announced the shell of it. But
so that would have been the year before.
Yeah.
And the dual HDMI ports.
That's weird.
I don't know why that stuck with me.
All right. Anybody else have anything more? Are we done with this E3 favorite reveals after
most
show?
Most of the E3 reveals that I really remember are the bad ones.
Well, there's that too.
That's the
I remember, was it I forget what year it was. Maybe it was that same year. And Phil, I think I was with you at this. It was the Nintendo conference.
Yeah.
And Miyamoto was chatting with people on their
on
the 3DS or the DS.
On PictoChat.
Yeah.
That's right.
So we were all sitting in the crowd waiting for this so describe PictoChat. I will not describe it well. What was PictoChat for people who don't remember it or don't know it?
PictoChat was a program that was included. It was just part of included with the original DS hardware. It was just a pre-installed program, and it was a chat tool. You could connect with other DSs in the vicinity. It wasn't like an online thing. You had to be within a certain radius.
Yeah.
And I forget how many people could be in a chat room at once. Was it 8 or 16?
Remember.
Was it even that many? I don't remember. But you could get a certain number of people in the room, and you could type out messages to each other on a little on-screen keyboard came up. Or what everyone really did was you could use your
pictures,
fancy little stylus.
Yep.
and the fancy touch screen on this new machine to write messages or draw little pictures.
So, of course, we're all sitting there waiting for this conference to start. And I mean, everyone used their DSs and everything at these conferences anyway, because, of course, you had the Street Pass.
Yeah.
Street Pass is 3DS.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Either way.
Yeah. This was everyone just playing around with PictoChat.
Yeah, this was just people chatting on PictoChat. But then somebody started appearing in the chat rooms.
Yeah.
And drawing. I think the only ones I saw were Mario images.
Yeah.
But it was Shigeru Miyamoto.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sending out messages. It's like, oh my god, this is so cool.
And yeah, he was clearly just backstage.
Yeah.
Randomly entering people's chats to say hello and to draw little pictures of Mario for everyone.
Yeah. It was very
up to
cool.
16. I was right. It was 16 people.
There you go.
Oh wow, okay.
Up to 16 people I'm looking at the Wikipedia page now, and paint and text chat with each other wirelessly through a LAN only system to system wireless connection. So
Excellent.
Yep.
Anyway, it's pretty neat.
Cool.
That was pretty good.
I don't remember what they talked about at that conference, but I remember that.
So that's all you need.
That was, I'm assuming that was probably 2005.
Probably.
Yeah.
Had to be, because 2004 they were just showing off the DS.
Yeah, because the DS came out in November of 2004.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably 2005 people were still high enough on the system that they were, regularly bringing it out to just PictoChat with randos.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well, that is our favorite E3 reveals. Thank you, Phil and Greg, for joining me on that topic. And I hope you listeners enjoyed it. If you have an idea for a topic that we can dig into on the after show, feel free to email that to player1podcast@gmail.com. Or if you have a quiz that you want us to play as well, you can email that there too. Perfect.
Yeah.
And thank you, everybody, for your support of the show. Thank you for listening. Hope you all out there in Radio Land are safe and well. Hope your family, friends, loved ones are safe and well as well. And we will talk at you again next week.
Bye-bye.